Good morning, everyone. Let's call this the June 16th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, thank you for seeing so many citizens showing up today. First up, we have our approval of minutes.
Mr. President, I'd move for approval of our Board of Commissioners meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2025.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Accounts payable and vouchers.
Mr. President, I would move for approval of the accounts payable vouchers from 6/4 of 25 to 6/16.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the accounts payables. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Payroll.
Mr. President, I'd move for approval of payroll dated June 6, 2025.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the payroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. An ordinance.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We hear ordinance 2025-20-CM, moratorium on large-scale solar energy systems on second reading.
Second.
Okay. So this is the second reading. Doug, would you like to fill in the blanks first?
Sure. This is same thing you heard 2 weeks ago. It imposes a moratorium on large-scale solar energy systems for a period of 1 year. I have recommended a small amendment that I think I discussed briefly would be coming, and that is in section 164.03 to delete the language except to the extent a jurisdiction has exempted itself under section 164.02. And that was a drafting error on my part that came from previous ordinances which applied countywide to incorporated and unincorporated parts of the county. This just applies to unincorporated parts of the county, so there would be no jurisdictions that could exempt themselves under that structure. So I would recommend that amendment.
Would we vote on that amendment separately, or?
Well, so you've introduced the motion. You would move to amend as recommended by council. You would approve that amendment, and then presumably, trying to think whether public discussion should be before or after that amendment. If it seems relatively uncontroversial to you, maybe just pass that amendment and then invite public discussion on the ordinance as amended. And then, let's see, there was I just want to get into the record a little bit. There was a letter we received from Wabash Valley Power Alliance regarding some previous public comment. There was a video related to them. They wanted to make it clear what their position was, that the video was not something that they wanted presented to the commissioners. And they say it doesn't represent the position of Wabash Valley Power Alliance with respect to this ordinance. They say, quote, as a generation and transmission organization supplying power to 21 rural electric cooperatives, we believe all power generation sources are critical, delivering reliable and affordable power to the communities we serve. We do not aim to influence the governance of a community. And so the full letter will be on file with you, but they just wanted to make it clear they weren't trying to do advocacy one way or the other with respect to this ordinance. And then a final point just I wanted to clear up. There's been some question about whether we regarded this ordinance as stopping the BZA special exception process. They're a separate organization. Application was filed before this ordinance would have been passed. So I think this doesn't affect their ability to pursue a special exception, and the BZA would evaluate it under their rules, so I
Okay.
think kind of went from several points, so if you had any more clarification, feel free to ask, but that's where we are.
So if I'm interpreting right, we need to do the amendment first, correct?
Yeah, that'd probably be best.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We amend ordinance 2025-20-CM as stated by council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the amendment. Really,
That's just voice vote.
Cliff Note version is it's cleaning up the ordinance is what it was.
Yeah, it's just deleting the language about a jurisdiction accepting themselves because there are no separate jurisdictions this applies to.
Okay. Let's just go ahead and vote on that, and then we can go to the ordinance. So all in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. All right, so now we're with the ordinance as amended. Once again, we will limit you to 3 minutes per person to discuss. If it's something that we haven't heard, bring it up. If you're repeating and repeating and repeating, we've heard it. So I'm going to switch the coin this time, and those who are opposed to the ordinance, I will allow you to go first. As you come up, please sign your name in so that we have it for the record. So anyone who's opposed to this ordinance, please present yourself.
Hello, I'm Liz Solberg, speaking on behalf of the Board of the League of Women Voters of Greater Lafayette. We reaffirm our opinion in support of renewable energy as contained in our statement presented on June 2nd during the first reading of the moratorium ordinance. We appreciate that Commissioner Murtaugh is forming a study group to evaluate the current solar ordinance, and our reaction was that would be important to do whether or not the ordinance passes or not. That's a very good measure. And we also would ask, please structure the group so that all parties are heard in the review process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed?
Good morning, Susan Schechter, 1001 Ferry Street. I see many local folk here. Some are acquaintances. They are well-meaning and motivated to preserve their homes. Fear of change makes fertile ground for seeds of misinformation. I've heard comments that a solar farm would be noisy, pollute the land, destroy good farmland. None of these fears stand up to scrutiny. Our best practice solar ordinance promotes soil improvement by restoring native habitats for plants, insects, birds, and wildlife. I've questioned how seeds of misinformation have been sown here. I heard 2 attorneys speak at the last meeting. One traveled a distance to attend the meeting. In my experience, attorneys speak in support of their client. They are interested in winning a victory for their client. We are not their client. This proposed solar farm would benefit our community by resting and restoring hundreds of acres of farmland, provide tax dollars to support our schools, parks, roads, bridges, legal system, and county government. It will protect the rights of property owners to choose how they use their land while protecting neighbors with buffers planted with native trees and surrounded by agricultural fencing. Commissioners Byers, Brown, Murtaugh, please trust the good work that you have done on the last solar ordinance that was just passed 2 years ago. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else opposed?
Jonathan Neal, 1001 Ferry Street, and I have solar on one of the buildings that I'm own, and I'm a very strong advocate of solar. And what I see happening is an erosion of support for solar. We have federal governments eliminating subsidies for solar panels, which the subsidies were supposed to counteract the tariffs on cheap solar panels from China. This is a competition from China. China is eating their lunch on solar. And I think that, what we see here are people who are concerned, and, they have valid concerns. They don't like the way solar panels look or solar fields look. So what they are very willing to trade their personal aesthetic to buy electricity from big fossil fuel companies that are polluting other people's water with coal ash. They're polluting the air, they're noisy, and they're disturbing their neighbors. So it is a trade-off here. You have a very good solar ordinance for solar fields already in place. What you need to do is think about enforcement of the ordinance that you have rather than putting a moratorium on all solar projects. So there has been a lot of misinformation. It reminds me of my childhood story of Chicken Little. Sky is falling, and Chicken Little gets misinformation because she got hit by an acorn. In this case, the misinformation is coming from the fossil fuel industry. So I think it's time for the commissioners to realize that anytime there's a change, anytime there's a progress, anytime that we try to make the world better for our future, there will be people who are going to be opposed. And these are the henny pennies who worry about things that aren't going to happen. The residents surrounding this solar farm have recourse to talk to the developers of the solar farm, and you also have ability to get commitments to minimize the impact on residents. So, I've seen net metering go away for solar. Okay, that affects me personally. I'm going to have to get a battery in a few years. They've also, cut subsidies. There's all kinds of government cutbacks on solar, and there is a very clear effort to kill solar projects nationwide, and it's something that's done to the benefit of the fossil fuel industry, and politicians get donations from these companies, and they go to support them. So I would ask that you grow a spine, continue the resolution that we have, open a study to look at improvements in the future and to look at enforcement, but that does not require a moratorium on new projects. Thank you. Questions?
Anyone else opposed? Once again, anyone else opposed? All right, thank you. Those who are in favor?
I'm going to do a quick sound, guys, sorry. Good morning. My name is Steve Shelby. I live at 9131 West 125 North, and I am speaking in support of the moratorium. I'd like to do a quick survey, I guess. So, hey, anybody who's in the audience at the present today who lives in Shelby Township, who lives in close proximity to the solar farm, who is in favor of the moratorium, would you please stand? Great. Thank you very much. You can be seated. Okay, now to be fair and balanced, anybody who lives in Shelby Township who is close to the solar farm and who is against the moratorium, please stand. Great, thank you. I'm going to go off script a little bit if I could, guys, since we only have 3 or 4 minutes. So the document you have in front of you is going to be a little bit different. So no doubt the residents of Shelby Township, we support renewables, that's a given. But we have some concerns about the project we've talked about in the past. I'm going to run through this pretty quick, though. From a legal standpoint, we worry about the unified zoning ordinance. There's no power purchase agreement in this. There's no approved drainage program, and the driveway issue hasn't been resolved. But more importantly, this is what I want to focus on, drainage and decommission. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the county drainage system, and in Shelby Township, probably the most important piece of it here is the Bender ditch. That's where all the farmlands drain into. But here's something that people don't remember. There are what are called tile laterals in all these other fields. That's where individuals have put tile to be able to make their farm drain back into the Bender ditch. So they're usually about 3 to 4 feet down. Now, as my understanding is, these solar panels may be driving pylons as much as 6 feet down. When that happens, they break the tile. That's an issue. Also is an issue in this solar farm, it's going to be fenced. There's tile that will run through this property. Well, what happens if there's a tile that gets clogged in the property? So that's an issue too. The soils in Shelby Township, we've been very blessed. They're very fertile, but they also have high water retention. What that means is the soil can be unstable. If you're going to put solar panels in, will those pylons hold? I don't know. You may have to reinforce with stone, could be. And then there's an issue, I guess, in these the trees and the shrubbery that we're going to be put around to kind of hide the solar farm. I hate to tell people, but trees grow roots, and so do shrubs, and those roots grow back into the tile. And if you're a farm kid and you know how to replace tile, you know that those tiles can get plugged pretty easily. From a decommissioning standpoint, real quick, there's no formal plan. We have an issue about risk of significant road damage, but more importantly, with solar farm, 30 years in the future, how do you restore the soil properties to the same productivity levels? There's going to be soil compaction from construction, soil compaction from mowing. To do that, heavy equipment, you got to do a lot of tilling and a lot of what I would call ripping the soil to make that productive again. More importantly, soil pH levels are going to be affected. Soil pH levels normally go from a 6 to about a 4.5 over time if they're not managed. Well, in 40 years, how much lime or whatever you got to put into the soil to bring those pH levels back up? That's an issue too. So that's the drainage and decommission issues. The other thing I want to make sure I mention is from an environmental standpoint, these panels, I'm sure everybody has greatest intentions, but if you've all been reading the news, the Chinese have flooded our market with solar panels, which was just mentioned. These solar panels have been proven to deteriorate in about 5 years. Unfortunately, we do have tornadoes. We do have hail damage here. The picture there is one of a solar farm that was damaged. When these panels do get damaged, chemicals do leach into the soil, and that soil gets affected. It's lead, cadmium, lithium are in these panels, and that can affect the soil. But here's the biggest thing. Fast forward 30 years. When it comes to decommissioning this program, you have to have mitigation of the soils, and because of the heavy metals or any contamination, what it might be. If you've ever been involved in remediation of a project in soil, it takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. That's an important thing here to remember. The other thing I want to bring up real quick is the EPA and the Department of Justice have just charged 4 solar farms with violating the Clean Water Act by failing to prepare for the sediment runoff. We've talked about water here. There's a whole other issue of sediment that runs off this farm or could run off this farm.
Mr. Shelby, if you could, it's been close to 4 minutes, so if you could just wrap up your thoughts,
Gotcha, I
I'd
will.
appreciate it.
I'm sorry, we were told we had 5 minutes, so that's the reason I'm doing that.
It's their meeting, so
Well-
if they told you otherwise, you go with them.
No, bro, okay, well, real quick, I appreciate that. So the EPA has filed some issues against solar farms, and coincidentally, these 4 solar farms that violated the Clean Water Act are all subsidiaries of international companies, which is very interesting. Health and safety standpoint, fire. It's very likely there could be a fire. We hope not with any solar panels. Just so you know, the local area services from a fire perspective is the volunteer fire department from Otterman, backed up by Wabash, backed up by Purdue. Now, Lithium's a whole other issue. If there is lithium in this solar farm, that's a whole other issue to worry about. But just the fire piece, how do you control the fire of these panels? You need water. If you're going to have water and they're going to be flushed against panels that are damaged, where does that water go? How do you retain that from leaching into the soil? And also, I don't know about you guys, but there's no fire hydrant out there, so you'd have to bring the water in. So in the interest of getting through this really quickly, the last thing I want to mention is the impact on surrounding property owners. When many of these fine people built their homes out there in Shelby Township, it was rural. They had no intention or no thought of a solar farm going in across the street. In some instances, they are right up to their mailbox. So they're concerned about their property values and also aesthetics. They also have wells. The majority of them have wells where they get drinking water. From a farmer's perspective, the adjacent farmland, there could be runoff. That's easily to happen. We worry about that. I worry about flooding. That can affect my crop yields as well. And from a future home site development, it's limited if the solar farm is there by trying to thousands of acres. Thank you.
Give me 1 second to bring up my PowerPoint. And there's my name, and I'll read it in. It's Victor Gervais, 3286 Apple Lane, West Lafayette. And a few things to talk about. First of all, he's too humble to say it, but Steve Shelby, this is Shelby Township, so you can kind of figure the relationship there. So he's very, very much tied in with what's going on in his family. So this is me. I'm one of the residents of the homes that's affected. And some of you in the crowd may know or may not know, but the commissioners were kind enough to come out with us and to visit the whole site out there and to see what we were talking about. So in their wisdom and consideration from us, I want to continue to thank you. It was a nice meeting with you and talking with you and everything, so I want to say that. But for me, that's who I used to work with. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I worked on locks and dams for 31 years. I'm a civil engineer. I've done all kinds of heavy construction and light construction, and so I have a bit of knowledge on this stuff. So I've also done wildlife refuges and mitigation projects and all kinds of things. And that's my first 31 years of my life. So, and one of those projects was we added a hydroelectric plant on the Illinois River. And just for the sake of discussion here, a hydroelectric plant runs at about 90% efficiency versus the solar, which is 24%. Now, we don't have a river running through this, but I just want to give a comparison of what we're talking about. So the point is I'm familiar with infrastructure. That's a big part of my life. I was actually young when I started all of that stuff. So I wanted to mention that. And then this is, for those of you who maybe haven't seen it, this is the entire site plan. We have a northern section and a southern section, and the light blue is where the panels are going to go. And I just wanted to show you that. And again, this is where the commissioners came out. We drove all around. They looked at the area. They stopped and they looked at the faces of the people whose homes are going to be surrounded or whatever by this stuff. So I wanted to put that up there. That stuff is rarely online, but it's a large area. It's 1,700 acres. It's not some small thing. It's, for perspective, it's 3 times the size of the Purdue Airport. So if you want to get a little something in your mind, if you want to envision an acre, it's something like the size of a football stadium. So if you can envision 1,700 football stadiums out there. So we're not talking about some little deal where you're putting on the roof of your house or something like that. So this is what we call it an industrial scale, which it absolutely is. So this is the southern end of the project, and all I wanted to point out on here is we got arrows pointing here. Every one of those arrows is a home, and then there are more that there aren't arrows to. But every one of those is a person. Every one of those who has a home has been invested in, lives there now. And poor John Aid, who I don't think is here today, is the one that kind of on the upper left. He's going to be surrounded on 3 sides by all of this stuff. And his family's been farming for years. The reason it's not blue coming down from his house is because that's his property or his cousin's property. Other than that, he would be surrounded by 4, so completely surrounded by this. So it's not a small issue. And now I want to move into the north section, because we showed the two sections, and this is where my wife and I live. And we live on Apple Lane, up at the top of Jackson Highway, if you're familiar with it, and we live on Apple Lane. It's our subdivision. 20 years ago, we moved from Illinois because we wanted to move to a better state, so here we are. And this was a brand-new subdivision that was in, and we found a nice lot, and we bought that. And I had retired from my previous Corps of Engineers job. And we thought, well, this is a wonderful place. It's a beautiful site. We have a nice ag field across from us, and you know we put all of our life savings into this home, and we're sitting there. And we thought, well, maybe someday there might be some houses across the street, another subdivision or something. We surely never thought about it, anything like this. So,
Mr. Gervais, if you could wrap it up. That's
okay, I've got
sort
5
of your time.
minutes. This is our home. I have 5 minutes. Commissioner Tracy?
Keep going.
Okay, this is our home, just to give you a picture that the commissioner stopped right in front of it, and we talked about it. This is looking out our front yard, where we see that beautiful ag field, looking out our dining room when we're eating. This is the beautiful field we've been looking at for 20 years, and that's all going to disappear. Just for perspective, back to my original job, I worked on locks of dams, a dozen of those on the Illinois-Mississippi River, and I saw thousands, millions of tons of grain moving through, so I'm at least familiar with how this stuff gets transported around. Every one of those barges carries 15,000 tons of grain, and the 15 that you see in that picture, that total is 225,000 tons of grain. I'm just saying that because I have a background even in the disposition of this stuff. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the construction. They're going to do some clearing and stripping and whatever out there. And this is Highway 231 for those of you who were here when we put 231 in. And you get scrapers and dozers, and it's not like we're not going to be disturbing things out there in order to build this. And some of the areas are relatively flat. Some of them are pretty hilly, and they've told us in their plan that they're going to want to level some of that stuff out. So this is the kind of stuff that's going to go to our land that we want to protect. So I just wanted to point that out, this gigantic equipment. And now my second career, for whatever reason I opted to do that, is I teach at Purdue, and I'm a lecturer there, and I teach heavy marine civil construction. May I speak, please? And I'm used to working on construction projects for my 31 years, and every project has, this particular project that I teach, all the senior engineers, if they sign up for it, it's a $2.6 billion project, and I teach them how to build these things, and so there's a lot of things. There's a little bit of tie-in, which my next slide will show.
Say, come on,
but my point is,
come on, Victor.
We have thousands of drawings and things on a project like this, and on what they're offering, we have like one drawing out of 900 pages that shows what they're going to do, and nothing technical, nothing engineering about it. And they're saying, well, we're just going to build this. What I did want to talk about is I'm leading to this piling.
Victor, that's surpasses even 5 minutes. Thank you.
Just one quick, I would rather see a tractor out there. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Okay. Get this out here.
Good morning, Catherine Soborowski, 938 Chepstow. 3 minutes, I know, I'll be short. I want to provide some clarification for, on behalf of the commissioners, more or less. So we came to them and asked about a moratorium about a month and a half ago, not because we want to stop solar or renewables in our county. That's not how we feel at all. We don't disagree with projects like that. We think they're important for the future of the grid. The reason we asked for the county to consider changes is because we did an ordinance here in 2021, and many things have shifted since then. The state issued solar readiness guidance in 2022. The state issued decommissioning guidance in 2024. These are two really big topics in terms of the sufficiency of our ordinance, and we haven't had time to look at putting them in yet. Now, when you talk about is regulating solar more a good or a bad thing, I'd point you to Pulaski County, the place in the state that has the most solar in the Midwest going in right now, and say they have ordinances that are a lot more stringent than ours, and it's working really good there. They're inviting over 13,000 acres of solar into their community with strong regulations. But some of the things that they have that we lack are liability insurance, assurances right in the ordinance that make sure decommissioning commitments run from one owner to the next, and some financial assurances to protect the county itself. They'll have the developers pay litigation costs that the county incurs. They'll have the developers pay for third-party studies if the county needs them to look at a project. We should know full well in Tippecanoe County that third-party studies are important. When the LEAP pipeline was coming to town, they brought their own commission study and said, we can take all this water and it's no problem. When the county got a third-party study during a moratorium, they learned the picture was much different. So we understand here that you shouldn't always take the first study at face value and say you're good to go. In terms of should we regulate more or not and how do you address that, look to Airbnbs. The county's been trying to regulate those for 7 years, changing regulations and saying no to about 25% because they thought they might be a nuisance or a safety problem. Even having done that, last week the Lafayette Police Department said these are a nuisance and a safety problem and we need to do something about it. So regulating more doesn't mean a bad thing for development in the county. Now, in terms of people that might be concerned, I just really want renewables and I feel this moratorium might be leading to shutting renewables out. That's not really what's going on here. You need to understand what these types of large renewables are. They're not coming into the county to provide local power to an REMC. They're not coming into the county by Duke Energy to provide power here. It's a private developer coming in, building something, and then entering a contract with somebody somewhere else to have the benefit of that power. In the state of Indiana, entities that buy are like Amazon, they're like Meta, they're like US Bank. They've bought in other counties in our state. I don't think that I need to sit here in my county and give up my land to make Amazon's carbon offset look better. So maybe we should think about what these projects really are. And then last, and I think this was already clarified by Doug Mason, but there's been some concern, well, does this impact rainbow trout? Under Indiana state statute, it's clear they filed, they're going forward under the existing laws. We all know that. And yet rainbow trout's been out in the community over the weekend saying, if you support solar, you need to be here fighting against this. What they've also been saying is that we want to work with community members, we want to give them time, we want to consider their concerns. Fighting against a moratorium to make better regulations that make this safer for our community is not taking account of community concerns. So that's kind of two-faced. I take issue with that, but also, if your project is so bulletproof, it's so safe, it has no problems, I don't know why you're scared of better regulations. So I support the commissioners implementing this moratorium. I think it's a smart and safe thing to do, and I think it still leaves the door wide open for solar to come to our county in a smart way.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ersman, and that's a tough act to follow. Thanks so much. In an effort to be mindful of time and stay on topic, I am going to read my statement, if that's all right. Carrie Ersman, 441 Kerber Road, West Lafayette, Indiana. We would like to address some comments rainbow trout have made about the proposed large-scale solar installation in the local media over the weekend. Specifically on Saturday, Dave Bangert ran a story about rainbow trout drumming up members of the public to come to this meeting. In the article, Molly Hale, the Director of Marketing and Communication for Genix, claimed that the company was concerned about input from the neighbors and would slow down the project to adequately address concerns. Hale was specifically quoted saying, "We address questions. We do not move forward until everybody feels heard and feels like their concerns have been addressed, and we redesign plans frequently. We look at how we can help neighbors feel good about it. It really is a community investment." Hale's statements directly contradict the real-world experience of those living next to the proposed rainbow trout site. Although Genix has allegedly been developing this project since 2020, I've been told the first and only public information session that they ever held about the project was on March 12th of 2025. It was a poster session with no organized presentation or speaker. At that meeting, multiple direct neighbors to the project voiced concerns, and virtually none of those concerns have been addressed. There were vague promises for a future large meeting, but no subsequent community meeting was ever held. The vast majority of immediate neighbors to this project were only asked for input after Rainbow Trout had filed with the BZA. Rainbow Trout filed on May 16 of 2025, and neighbors began receiving letters that week. Our letter, postmarked 17 May of 2025. Can anyone in the audience who received this late communication please stand? I'd also like to ask anyone in the audience that lives near this proposed installation who never received any communication from this development, to also everybody to remain standing. So those that got it late and those that never got it. So the letters asked neighbors to reach out. Our group reached out to Shelby Ruffner that week and offered to meet, but we were met with an out-of-office message. It took Ruffner weeks to respond to our effort to meet, and even then the response was non-committal. This is not the behavior of a developer that truly cares about the neighbors or wants to adapt the project to address our concerns. Instead, you have a company out soliciting support from folks who know little to nothing about this project, while simultaneously ignoring and actively working against those who live nearby and care. I respectfully ask you to vote yes on the moratorium for large-scale solar installations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Pridemore, and I live at 608 North, 575 West. And there's two things that I would like to bring to your attention. We have solar on our house, so it's not that I'm against solar. But did you know that there's a kill switch that China has put in the equipment? Let that sink in for a minute. They can control all of us across the state, across the nation.
It's a what?
A kill switch.
In what?
In the
Come on.
equipment.
Respect, please.
Now, the other thing I would like to say is my sisters and I inherited a small farm in Benton County. And 5 or 6 years ago, we were talking with people. We were approached by them. It was a company out of Indianapolis. And we went down and spent several hours talking with them. So I know from a personal experience how they come across. They want to make it sound like it's the best thing since sliced bread. We listened to our gut. We grew up on a farm, and we listened to our gut, and we walked away from that. Now, I want to tell you that financially, wow, it was wonderful. They offered us a lot of money and a 30-year contract. 30 years. Look at what we've seen in the last 10 years. You guys aren't going to be sitting in those chairs in 30 years from now. But our children and our grandchildren are going to be. And when we realized that we had to make a 30-year commitment on our parents' farm, we said no. Mom and Dad would not have wanted this. They loved the land. They protected the land. Dad was an excellent farmer. And every time I go to Fowler, I have to look at those GD windmills, and thank goodness you guys turned that down. It's turned it into an alien country. And nobody out there wins by it. Oh, the tax dollars, yes, it's all financial. But it looks like you know what every time you drive out there. And we count the ones not working. We count what's happening in the grade school that's so close to it. We're listening to what's happening to the birds. Listen to your gut. Do what is right for this community. Not because there's been this big push on climate change, but somehow we have to feed all the people in our country in the next years to come, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. And we can't do that if we're selling off all this land for 30 years. We walked away from that meeting because we thought, we don't know what's going to be there in 30 years, and you're making a lot of supposed promises to us. And the data you gave us was simply your thinking. It hasn't been around long enough to know what's going to happen. But this is our farmland, and I don't want to drive past that damn thing on my way to Fowler. It's bad enough I have to see the windmills. And again, thank you for not approving the windmills in Tippecanoe County. Thank you. Oh, I got it.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. My name is Joe Soborowski, 938 Chepstow Lane. I'm a resident of Tippecanoe County, a sustainability researcher who understands the need to balance economic, social, and environmental aspects of energy production. I want to begin by stating clearly, I support solar energy, but I also support responsible planning. That's why I believe that this temporary moratorium is necessary. The solar ordinance adopted in 2020 was well-researched and forward-looking for its time. The Area Plan Commission drew from best practices, APA guidance, and input from citizens still in lockdown. It was a good ordinance, but the landscape has significantly changed. We are no longer looking at small-scale or community-scale solar like the one you see next to Purdue Airport. Today's proposal are industrial power plants with battery storage, 345 kilovolt transmission transformers, and dozens of high-output inverters. These are fundamentally different in scale and impact, and our ordinance was not built for these large-scale projects. Even back in 2020, reading the minutes, there were concerns about bond reliability, inflation, and long-term enforceability of decommissioning. Those concerns were valid then, and even more so now. We only need to look at one of California's largest solar power plants that was championed as Plant of the Year by the Solar Energy Industry Association. Built with $1.6 billion in federal support and designed to last 50 years, it failed after just 11 years. The Sierra Club, a national leader in clean energy advocacy, called it a financial boondoggle and environmental disaster. Not because they oppose renewables, but because they demanded better planning. That's what we need here. A short pause, not a ban, to bring our ordinance up to date, close known gaps, and ensure that Tippecanoe County can welcome solar development with the tools to do it wisely, safely, and sustainably. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Susan White. I live at 5241 Jackson Highway. I have lived there for 30 years since my late husband and I purchased the property in '95. It's beautiful. We have a stream. We have woods. We wanted our children to grow up in the country like both of us did and have all those advantages. Never in my wildest dreams did I think something like this was going to go in next door. We are a neighborhood. There are 7 houses that live on our lane. There are people everywhere. There are much better places they could put this, but let's just go with, I have a lot of notes. I know I'm going to have to cut it down. My first concern was habitat and what it would do to the wildlife out there. We have deer. We have all kinds of eagles, turkeys, you name it, they're out there, and I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to them. I will also admit that the way they look bother me. I think they really are an eyesore. And yesterday gave me a prime example of that. My husband and I took our motorcycle and decided to drive up to Culver, where I'm from, to put flowers on Father's graves. We also went to DeMott. We also went to Kentland. Well, from Culver to DeMott on State Road 10, we counted at least 15 solar farms. We knew that Stark County had a lot of them, and most of their people aren't very happy about it. And it's no wonder, because I don't know what kind of promise those companies made to them, but the fences all around, prison fence, had no trees, no bushes, nothing. From the highway, you could see all of the panels, and it really was unsightly. There were a couple of them that had canvas around them, but you could still see what was going on. Another thing I noticed about it that's different than what we're going to have here is that there weren't very many residences where they were, and it wasn't on prime farmland. It was mostly on land that had always had weeds on it. And we've driven back and forth between there many times to see that. So again, I don't know what kind of promises were made to them, but it definitely looked like something we don't want to have happen here. Another concern I have, besides the ones we've mentioned about the lower property value and the chemicals and the drainage and all that, is what happens if the company we're dealing with goes bankrupt? There have been 85 companies at least since 2023 that have gone bankrupt. How are we protected? How are they going to decommission this if they go out of business? We don't know. They can write a lot of things up, but we may have to litigate to get them to do what they promised they would do for us. And like has been previously said, we have hail, we have tornadoes, we have all kinds of problems like that. So if this company goes bankrupt, how do we know those things are going to be taken care of? So those are huge concerns of mine. Also, I have read that safety for people that are living close by, it's suggested that these be 1,640 feet, which is 0.3 miles, away from residences and homes where people are living. And the future of solar is kind of iffy. I'm not totally against it, but the tax credits and the funding and the grants and everything that have helped pay for it to this point in time are being less and less with the administration that we have now, and I see it being that way in the future. So there are many, many concerns for me. But the bankruptcy possibility, the disturbing of the habitat and the environment around there, the danger to our water supply, property values, there's just a whole list of them. So I really, really hope that you will vote for the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great discussion. Anybody else in favor of the moratorium?
I'm Judy Stout. I live on State Road 26. I will be about less than a quarter of a mile from these solar panels. We have a wetland right behind our house. All of this drainage will go into that wetland. We have lots of wildlife, geese and cranes, herons, deer, raccoons, coyotes, whatever. I am concerned with the runoff of this, of the lead and stuff that will be going into this wildlife area that will hurt the wildlife. We've lived there for 60 years. I bought from my grandfather, and his farm is one of them that has been signed over to this solar system, and I am very upset about it. This has been, my grandfather built his house there in like 43. So, and I was born in 44. So it has been in our family for years, be 81 years. I'm not against solar, but I am against taking up prime farmland. My grandfather and my uncle would turn over in their grave if they knew this was happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Colton Adams, and I live at 7315 West, 500 North, West Lafayette. I would like to take a moment to address a few concerns with the current zoning ordinances and emphasize the need for a moratorium to establish a better plan. I do not oppose renewable energy, but if the county hopes to do these projects, we should do it right. It was mentioned at the last meeting that Tippecanoe County placed restrictions on wind energy a few years ago. One of you stated that the primary reason for this change was that large wind turbines would physically limit opportunities for future growth in the county. Large industrial solar plants are no different. For example, a potential solar development on the outskirts of West Lafayette would also place physical limitations on residential growth in this area of Tippecanoe County. As seen on the map that I handed you, this area has continued to grow with many beautiful homes and neighborhoods. However, large solar power plant developments on hundreds of acres would likely limit opportunities for this type of development in the future. This is not in the best interest of the county or planning committees. Most of the people in red physically live in this area and have countless concerns about inadequate ordinances and the lack of limitations on large power developments on land zoned for agriculture. I encourage you to pass this moratorium, and perhaps more importantly, please continue to communicate with the Board of Zoning these numerous concerns. Since the project on file could pass without thorough research and consideration very quickly, as seen with the recent vote at the Area Plan Commission meeting, we sincerely hope you listen to the people who actually live in these areas and will be affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all great comments. Anyone else? Just retrieving a pen. That's good.
First of all, let me say, I don't live in this township, but I do live in Tippecanoe County, and I'm very concerned about Tippecanoe County as a whole. I've lived here since 1955, my whole life, and I've seen this county grow immensely. I mean, probably tenfold. In fact, over the weekend, I'd read a post on Facebook that Lafayette rated number 10 out of the 30 best cities to live in the state of Indiana. And that's not by accident. It's because of the way this county is planned and built the way it is today. So I really ask that you look deeply into the future of this county. I see it as being a residential neighborhood and an industrial neighborhood that people live and work here and live a good life. Solar panels take out hundreds of acres of land for that development for the future. And we need to look at Tippecanoe County's future, not present, and not cater to government subsidies that are paying for these solar panels, that solar panels should stand on their own. And I have to say, I'm in full support of renewable energy. I drive a hybrid electric car. I never got any subsidies for it when I bought it, but it's definitely well worth the buy. But when it's government subsidized, is it good because it's being paid for by the government, or is it good because it can stand on its own? And I think that's what we need to think about. Solar panels are a good idea, but they need to be, in my mind, a dual purpose. Putting them on roofs is a great idea. I mean, you need a roof on a house anyway. If it could be a dual purpose as a roof and generate electricity, super. Same with parking lots. You look at Indianapolis Airport, they put all those panels down there at the airport. And then if you go to Fast Park, I don't know if any of you used that, it's about 3 miles from the airport. They got roofs over all these cars to keep the snow and the weather off your car while you're gone. They're doing nothing. They're not generating electricity. But yet, what could have been a parking lot is generating electricity and serving no other purpose. So I just ask that in the future you think about what's best for the county. That's all I have to say.
Could you state your name?
Donald Koenig, 1421 East, 600 North. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, final call. Anybody else in favor? Okay, just simply want to say thank you to everyone. You've made our commissioners' meetings exciting, first and third Monday. You're more than welcome to come back to all of our other commissioners' meetings on that part of it. So thank you on that part. All right, commissioners, any thoughts or sayings?
I think we did a pretty good job of outlining our feelings last time around, but I'll echo again, you get additional perspective, and it's important to look at things and make sure that you've got that information. You can take that into consideration when you're making very, very weighty decisions like the one that we're making with this. So,
I'm good.
Okay, Jennifer.
Byers?
Yes.
Brown?
yes.
Murtaugh?
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-20 CM. Passes 3-0 on second and final reading.
Okay, once again, thank you all. If you're don't want, Stu's usually up next, and everybody leaves when Stu comes up for highway. So if you are, please go ahead and, Stu, you're up, highway.
Stu, I'm going to stay.
And if you would, we are still having a meeting, please. We are still having a meeting, please. I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, we are still having a meeting, please. Go ahead, Stu.
All right. Thank you. Just have a couple of items.
Please, please, we're still having a meeting. Please.
First of all, is County Road 500 East Reconstruction Project. This is from US 52 to 350 South. We have some right-of-way. Parcel 15, L&M Realty, LLC, we have a warranty deed, parcel 15, in the amount of $32,300, and a temporary easement grant, parcel 15A, valued at $900 for approval.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the warranty deed and the temporary easement grant for the 500 East reconstruction project as outlined.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the warranty deed and temporary easement as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Second and final item is the Weos School Road pavement reconstruction. You've awarded to Milestone Contractors the project. They have submitted payment and performance bonds in the amount of $663,500 each for approval.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the payment and performance bonds for Milestone Contractors for the Weos School Road project.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this payment bond and performance bond as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, some policy updates.
Okay. First policy I have is 601, employee evaluations. This lays out that employees should have an evaluation done annually. It's up to the supervisor if it's on the anniversary date or any other date within the year. Employee and supervisor should complete the evaluation, come together to finish, and it should be kept in a personnel file within Human Resources.
So the old evaluation form goes away?
Correct. The new form is already loaded into the G drive.
Okay. Do you want to handle these as one, or?
Yeah, we probably should. Let's do them one at a time.
Okay. Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the policy on employee evaluations.
Second.
Motion and second to approve policy 601. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Policy 603 is our grievances policy. Outlines essentially that a grievance should be taken to a non-interested supervisor firsthand, department head or elected official second, and next filed within the Human Resources Office in writing. Investigation will be done. All parties brought to the table to come to an agreement. Commissioners would be involved should needed.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve policy 603, handling grievances.
Second.
Motion and second to approve policy 603 update. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Policy 608 is meal periods and breaks. This isn't really new. Updated some verbiage, reiterates that employees need to be relieved of all duties for it to count as a lunch break, and 2 15-minute breaks are allowed but not legally required by us as the employer.
Mr. President, I'd move for approval of policy 608, meal periods and breaks.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this policy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Policy 609 is lactation breaks. Most of this is federal and state guideline that we are required to follow, but states that we, are following these rules and allowing time and accommodation for lactation breaks.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve policy 609 on lactation breaks.
Second.
Motion and second to approve policy 609. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who had a part in this. We're finally through 99% of our policies. Most are still in draft form. IT has a couple, but to everybody who had a voice, it was very helpful.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. All right, Kent. Ezra.
This amendment's for a one-year extension to the current agreement.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the one-year extension for the enterprise agreement.
Second.
And this is for $165,000, correct? Is what it says?
Well,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Motion and second to approve amendment number 1 for the Environmental Systems Research Institute extension. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you. Service agreement. Stacy. Or Doug, either or.
Doug and Stacy.
Morning. Yeah, I can punt this one to Doug. This is for our service agreement with the contract, Carol Ott, the pharmacist.
Yeah, so we currently have a service agreement with Carol Ott. As it's written, it calls for a 60-day termination period for no cause. There's nothing going wrong with this, but Purdue, it sounds like, will agree to waive that limit. We're recommending that you waive that 60-day period. I think the plan is that there's a state or Purdue sort of funded program that Carol will provide similar services under, so we'll stop paying under this contract. I think you'll still be getting, I'm not sure if it's identical services, but similar services that you won't have to pay for. So be in the best interest of the county to, I think we need to authorize the president to waive the 60-day termination period. And that way, I think there's some paperwork that might come through that Purdue will want that.
Carol's asking to end her contract June 30th, so she can start her new on July 1st. But Purdue has a clause in there, without cause, they wanted 60 days. And unfortunately, we're in that window. So he's asking for permission to, she will no longer be a contracted worker with Tippecanoe County Health Department or Tippecanoe County.
So we're not receiving any services from her then?
No, she's still on the Health Department board, and she's still going to serve on our suicide overdose fatality review team. Other than that,
What's the?
that's through Dr. Adams' HEAL program.
Yeah, I didn't
so-
know if it was her or just somebody else through the HEAL program, but you're going to still be getting some sort of related services, is that?
Not anything that's contractual.
Well, right.
So, yeah, but.
I guess where I was looking for clarification is, we're waiving it, and it sounds like getting along with Purdue is a good idea if, if we're just talking a couple weeks anyway. Theoretically, if we wanted to keep getting the services, like that 60 days is to protect us too.
Mhm.
So it sounds like we're all on board with waiving it because we're just getting along with ending it July 1st instead of August 15th or whatever, but.
Mr. President, I would move that in regards to the service agreement between Purdue University and the County Health Department, we authorize you to take action upon receiving the paperwork to terminate the agreement earlier than anticipated.
Yeah, and to otherwise waive the 60-day termination period.
Second.
What he said.
I'm not repeating it. Okay, we have a motion and a second as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes. All right, eliminate 2 positions and create 1.
So I would like to eliminate a PAT 4 and a PAT 3 and reopen the community health case manager for ComOp 4. That's a position we did have in the past. It got closed. And then just reopen that.
And would like to say this is basically a $74,000 savings just on salaries alone, not counting benefits.
Yeah, it did pass the Personnel Committee on June 10th. I forgot that part, sorry.
And is this part of the decrease in funding for HFI? No?
Not exactly. We're not sure yet if this can possibly be paid for out of the safety pin.
Okay.
But if not, it will be out of Health First Indiana. But the other two positions were as well. They're just hard to fill, and they need RN requirements, and we don't find those for this kind of case, this kind of position.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We eliminate the FEMA project coordinator, which is a PAT 4, eliminate the case abstractor, which is a PAT 3, and create a community health case manager as a comment 4.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve eliminating two positions, creating one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you. All right. The sale of a dog.
Good morning. What we're doing is Ron wanted to buy one of our dogs. I missed a couple calls from him. He was messing with me, so I got him back. No, anyway, what we have is Deputy Guinea's last day is tomorrow. He is going back to the department we got him from out in Washington. He is a canine handler. I personally don't like breaking that relationship up, so we have reached an agreement with the agencies he's going to purchase that dog for $8,000, which would allow us to put money towards the dog that we have to replace that just passed away. So that's what this agreement would be.
Mr. President, I would move to approve the agreement.
Second.
Motion is second to approve this transfer of a canine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Thank you very much.
All right, Gary.
You don't. It's the highest bidder, Ron. You were low.
So I'm here today to present the contract for the renovation of the restrooms, the first floor restrooms at the courthouse for ADA purposes. We have a contract from Big Ben Builders in the sum of $111,800 for the renovation.
And that project does not include any alterations to the exterior of the building, correct?
No.
So it doesn't change the doors, the exterior doors
No.
into those facilities? Okay.
None of that.
Okay. Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve the contract with Big Ben Builders for the courthouse restroom renovation project.
Second.
Motion is second to approve this contract for the updating our bathrooms to make them ADA compatible. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Okay, next we have our, these are 3-year contracts with Tippecanoe Fire for our annual inspections on our buildings. This is to include the 629 North 6th Street for $986, the 111 North 4th Street for $1,213.50, the 2800 North 9th Street, Community Corrections for $2,283. 215 Columbia Street, the parking garage for $785. 20 North 3rd Street, this building for $2,237. 1950 South 18th Street, the central office building, $1,360. The courthouse, 301 Main Street, $2,405. 3550 Brady Lane, $217.99.
Highway garage.
The what?
The highway garage.
Highway garage.
Yeah.
It's not an address I'm used to. And 3150 Sagamore Parkway South, the animal shelter, $2,628.90.
Mr. President, I would move for approval as outlined by
Second.
staff.
Second.
Motion is second to approve these contracts with Tippecanoe for fire protection. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
And the third presentation here is for our service agreement for HVAC. This is to include the 629 building, the jail, community corrections, courthouse, county office building, and the central office for a 2026 cost of $19,797, 2027, $26,990, and 2028, $18,627.
Mr. President, I would move for approval of the contract with A&R as outlined by Gary, the total amount being $65,414.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the contract with A&R Mechanical as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Okay, recreational use. Doug, I'm going to punt to you, too.
All right. This is an agreement with the Stones Crossing Subdivision Homeowners Association. We've got kind of a unique situation, I think. There was, as I understand the background, Marcasite Boulevard attached Amethyst Drive, connected Amethyst Drive to Concord Road. Some reconstruction meant that that area is no longer being used as a road at the moment, and I think not for the foreseeable future. So this lease gives the HOA permission to use it as a park or other green space available to residents of the subdivision or to members of the public. And they accept liability for using it that way, and so this is a lease agreement that lets them do that. There's, I think we put $1 rent in there, but it's nominal.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve the real estate lease with Stones Crossing Subdivision Homeowners Association.
Second.
Motion is second to approve this lease agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Unfinished new business. Ryan, do you want to talk about the A to AA real quick?
Yeah, so we'll kind of get in on the ground floor of it at this meeting, but we'll make another announcement at the July Ordinance Committee meeting. So we have a rezone petition for a large area of Wabash Tippecanoe Township that we're proposing to rezone from typically A zones to the AA zone, which is agricultural select. It's a bit of a preservation zone for ag land. And this is to bring that part of the county into conformity with the approved land use plan that was adopted by this body early last year. And there was we had obviously a lot of input from folks. I think there was obviously some confusion. We've had lots of discussions with various folks, both publicly and then obviously on the phone and in person down in our office. I think this was meant to be a fairly routine little adventure. That's something that we've done for many, many decades, these mass rezones to try to bring areas into conformity with the plan. I think in this instance, the commissioners have been interested in kind of pivoting the policy on how we do these mass rezones in the unincorporated county to essentially provide an option for folks to opt into the rezone. Essentially, we're sparing them the rezone fee if they ever choose to rezone their property to that district in the future. And so we do have, in this case, a few folks that have already said they want in. And so I think for their sakes, we'll continue with the petition in a reduced form. But then beginning at our next ordinance committee meeting, which will be the first Wednesday of July, we'll make a similar sort of announcement that we're going to essentially open up a month-long period, and we'll do a media blast, and that's part of the reason why I'm speaking here, so the media are aware. From now till early August, we'll have a period where folks also want to join in be able to get their property rezoned to AA if they're within the area that we originally were interested in it. It can't be someplace else in the county. It has to be in the area that we were thinking of. So if you're down in Laramie or somewhere else, that's not the area we're talking about. But if you're in the area we originally laid out and you want in, we'll let you in. Otherwise, we'll assume you're out. And I think that'll be the policy moving forward for some of these mass rezones. Of course, the commissioners can enjoy the right to do a mass rezone of their own. It just needs to be publicized per state code, and you're off to the races. But you're certainly welcome to show sensitivity in certain cases. Also, my understanding is that we've been cleared to kind of pursue kind of phase 2 of the Wabash Tippecanoe rezones, much smaller scale, looking at targeted sites that are either grandfathered that we want to bring into conformity, or areas that are zoned certain district from the past, and that use has long ago been abandoned and probably needs to be rezoned to be useful. So we will be exploring that, and then working with the commissioners to kind of develop a strategy for how to go forward from that. Typically, it's reaching out to the owners with a letter, trying to, again, giving them the option which way they want to go, try to have a conversation with them. And so we'll take that phase in turn, but we want to try to get this phase wrapped up and moving forward. So if that's clear, so we'll have we'll kind of make a formal notice at ordinance committee, and then reach out to the media, just to spare having to do another zillion mail out letters. We've already done that. I think a second round would just confuse everybody even more. So, but for the future, since the WEA Sheffield Township's plan is currently underway, and in fact, we're having our first kind of public gathering at WEA Middle tonight. I think that'll be kind of the established policy is that for areas where we want to do a mass rezoning, we'll encourage the commissioners to do that, and then if they would like to go the route of, we'll do a mass mailing, write us back if you want in, otherwise we'll assume you're out, or if you write us back and say you're out, then you're out. And then we'll just handle it that way for situations similar to this one, the AA. So that makes sense?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other unfinished or new business need to come to the board? Nothing? Okay, reports on file from Central Mail Accounts Payable Duplications, Clerk of the Circuit Court, Coroner's Office, Tippecanoe Public Library, and the Treasurer. These reports will be in the Commissioner's office for public viewing. Any public comment?
Morning. My name is Lynn Holland, and I live at 5224 West, 350 North in West Lafayette. And I am reading this statement on behalf of Kenny McCleary, who's not in town today. And I should have done it before the troops left. I didn't know they were going to go. And Kenny wanted it read at the end in the public statement because it's kind of a forward thing and not necessarily specifically to what you've heard about the moratorium. So thank you for the passage of the moratorium on utility scale solar installations. We now have time to reconsider what we need to do. Representatives from GNEX would like to paint this moratorium as a rejection of all solar systems and opposition to their project as an anti-solar movement. But this is nonsense, as has been said. We're not against solar. We're deeply concerned about a proposed land use which will cause irreparable harm. On June 25th at the BZA, we'll be going into this in great depth. But Kenny wanted to point out some things we know and some things we don't know, questions we need to ask. So what we know is that Rainbow Trout Solar LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of GNEX LLC. That's right, an LLC owning an LLC. Rainbow Trout has no employees and no physical assets. Secondly is that GNEX is an LLC too. They are a wholly owned subsidiary of the French national electrical utility with a U.S. staff of about 24. They do not construct, own, finance, or operate any solar facilities. RWE Clean Energy LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of a German energy company with all types of generating facilities, including fossil fuel systems. RWE's largest shareholder is an investment firm from Qatar in the Middle East. So those are the things we do know. Some things we don't know. Why do GNEX and RWE publications not state that they're wholly owned subsidiaries of foreign utility companies, European utility companies. Who will RWE use as a construction company? They subcontract out the building of their facilities, and it almost certainly will not be a Lafayette company or Lafayette workers who get that job. Who'll buy the power? Neither GNX nor RWE have a power purchase agreement in place at this point, and even if they did, the power generated here would go on the grid and not necessarily in this county. Who will be around in 40 years and responsible to pay for the removal of millions of pounds of expired equipment? Why are the participating landowners prohibited from talking about or sharing the terms of their lease agreements? This project has the potential to receive almost $50 million in federal subsidies. That's my tax dollars and yours. Where will that $50 million go? To Tippecanoe County economy? Don't bet on it. And finally, why are so many other Indiana counties rejecting GNX and RWE projects and moving to block further expansions where they've completed projects? What they know and what we don't know is what we should know. And it will behoove us to find that out in the next 10 days before the BZA meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Not seeing any.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Gary.